Hey, everybody, welcome to Disgruntled this Thursday evening. Unfortunately, I have to be the bearer of bad news and let you know that our friend Jason will not be joining us this evening. He had some family things that he committed to, and of course, family comes first before anything. And so we will just you're stuck you're stuck with just me, and maybe the one good part about it is he gets out of his final thought again. That's twice this week. I just want to make sure that all of us are keeping track of that, because he will be called upon for extra final thoughts at some point if necessary. So today I thought that I would talk to you about why, and maybe none of you care, but I thought I'd talk to you about why I joined the military. And the reason why this came up in my mind was that, I'd been doing some reading. And of course, if you're watching what's going on around you, it's not hard to see that our recruitment numbers and our attrition numbers are low. We've talked about it before on Disgruntled here. We've certainly talked about it on the Richard Leonard show over on Rumble. And so I guess I've come to the point where I'm interested to know why people are joining the military at this point in time in our country's history. And don't be mistaken, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for everybody that does decide to make the commitment and then honorably live up to that commitment that they made, because that's the game, right? You swear an allegiance, you raise your right hand, and you go through that whole process, and then you do so honorably. And I think that that's the important thing to remember, is that it's not just another person applying for a job. Not just applying for a job and sticking it out for 20 years and calling her good. I will say that I believe some people do that. And I personally don't have a problem with it. I think if you do what you're supposed to do and you serve honorably, then fine. If you look at it as just a job that provides you and your family with good meal on your table, some health insurance that's decent, in some cases very good, and it's a way to secure a future as well as be a contributing member to society and be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. But your real intention is just to have longevity in a job. I get it. I understand that, and I don't think that anybody can be upset at anybody else for having that mindset. But I think that there's those that join for other reasons. I think that there's people that they choose to join the military because they have this feeling in their chest, this call to service, maybe. I mean, you hear people talk about it. And then there's maybe people that join because they can get a free secondary education out of it, and they join and they do their 4 or 6 or 8 years or whatever that contract looks like. And then they go about their business. And I don't think that's a problem either. In fact, I believe that is a smart way to contribute and then go on to use the tools and all of those great things you learned in a career field in the civilian world, and then bring that culture into the civilian workforce. I think that can be helpful for a lot of industries. And so there's those people too. And I guess I would say that none of those examples I have any problem with at all. Use the military for what it can give you, but also what you give it while you're wearing a uniform is also very important. There's a lot of people depending on the men and women who are wearing a uniform. They're depending on you to have some integrity. They're depending on you to stand up in face of adversity. They're depending on you to be that person to run towards the gunfire when it happens, not run away. And of course, depending on your job and whatever it is that you pick to do with inside the military, but get from it what you can. I always told people towards the end of my career, and even now if they ask, do something in the military that will provide you a skill set that is above and beyond what your competitors in the civilian workforce might be when you're done with the military. For example, big thing now in our society is tech stuff, right? Everybody knows that. So if you can join the Army or the Air Force or the Navy or the Marines or the Coast Guard or even the good old Space Force, which I think we're going to see a lot more of in the coming year or two. If you can join one of them and get into networking or cybersecurity or IT in general, you're going to come out of that deal way ahead. Not only are you going to have a ton of life experience, but you're going to have all your certifications, all your licenses that you need to operate in that career field, and they're going to pay for it for you. They're going to send you to the training, or they're going to bring the training to you one way or the other. So that's a huge thing, huge opportunity for people who are interested in that line of work. The other big one that I just learned about recently was these big drones, the Predator drones, and they're even bigger now. You know, they fly them overseas in the Middle East from somewhere in like Florida or Texas or Washington State or North Dakota or who knows where. But somewhere there, I know that there's a school in North Dakota that has a really good drone program, so maybe they're training military people. Who knows? I'm not in the know of that stuff any longer, but get out of it the best that you can, again, but give them the best you can while you're there, because lots of people depend on it. And so, as far as I go, for me, the Army was sort of a classic story, right? The Army was sort of a last option for me to do something meaningful, I guess is a good word. And maybe I would have, had I not joined the Army, maybe I would have found something somewhere down the road. But at that particular point in my life, it was the last option for me to do something with my life that was meaningful. And I'll tell you, when I was a teenager, my mother used to tell me all the time, you should really, when you're at school and those recruiters are in there, and the Air Force guy comes, you should talk to them about the Air Force and what it might be like. And she'd had a couple friends that were in the military, in the Guard or reserves here in Minnesota. And I probably wasn't the easiest kid to raise. I think I had my challenges, but at the same time, I was, in my opinion, and I don't know, Mom, if you ever see this, maybe you can leave a comment about whether or not this is true. But I did some stupid things, and I had some pretty some pretty gnarly activities going on outside of my house and outside of school and outside of practice. But the truth of the matter was this. I played 4 sports in high school. Well, most of high school. I think I only played 3 my senior year. And I really didn't have time to get into mischief. But I found a way to get into some. I think that we were just really good at not getting caught. We used to, one of my best friends and I, Ryan, we used to ride around in his mom's minivan and just terrorize the neighborhood. We wouldn't damage anybody's property, and we wouldn't hurt people or anything, but we were probably a pain in the ass for a lot of people. And then my other good friend Grant, him and I and Andy, we got into some hijinks, man. And maybe sometime I should have these guys down here. I know it's not really veteran related, but I should have these guys come in the studio and just kind of to build on this exact story, this exact episode. Just to talk about some of the crap that we did when we were teenagers. I think that it'd be super fun, first of all, and I think it'd be pretty entertaining. Maybe not, maybe nobody cares, but for me, it was, looking back on it now, it really was something, I'll tell you what. But I was never the type of, every time my mother brought it up, yeah, Mom, okay, I'll talk to them, and some way or another, the chance that she knew that a recruiter was going to be in the cafeteria during lunch was like a 60-40 split. There's a 60% chance that she knew that they were going to be there, and I'd be questioned about it. And she got me a couple times. So did you talk to them today? I heard they were at school. Well, what? Like, how did you know? No, I didn't. I was busy doing homework or something at lunch, which was a complete fabrication. I was probably stuffing my lunch down my throat fast, so I had enough time to go get a second one, because practice was a long time after school, and it'd be a long time before I could eat again. And as you can see, I still, in my mid-40s, I still don't miss a meal at all. I don't miss a snack. I don't miss none of that shit. So, but it wasn't something that I was super into even considering. I didn't want to have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I didn't want to have to go running in the cold. I didn't want to have to be told what to do. I didn't want to have to get yelled at. I just didn't want to do it. And so I'd made up my mind that I wasn't going to. And so fast forward a few years, and I went off to college to play football, and I landed in Mankato, Minnesota, towards the end of my college days as a teenager or young adult. I was playing football there, and I got injured my shoulders. And it was time to make a decision about whether or not I was going to continue playing the game. And of course, I was all in. Yeah, well, do whatever we got to do. I'll do it. I just want to play. And it's not like ninth grade, right, or 11th grade football, where you're coming up on your last year in high school and it's very meaningful to you. I mean, this was meaningful to me, but I will say, a coach sat me down, or maybe it was the trainer. One of the two sat me down, and they very bluntly asked me, if all things are equal and your injury heals perfectly and there's no problem, and in 3 weeks you're back to your full ability to play. You finish out the season, you come back next year. Let's say you have a good season. And then let's say the next year you have a better season. And let's say your last year of eligibility, you have your personal best season. Then what? Are you going to go to the NFL? Are you going to go to the combine? Are you going to make it? Do you think? I mean, I don't think that they were telling me, look, bro, you're not going to make it. But they were very bluntly asking me, do you think you'll make it? And looking back on it, which I have quite a few times in my adult life now, I see it differently. I see it as a question like, do you think you'll make it? As in, if you're in and you think you'll make it, well, damn it, let's get you better and let's get you on that field and let's have your personal best every year and let's blow it out of the water, not just a personal best, but let's blow it out of the water. And if you think that you can go to the combine and you have a chance at playing in the league or even a practice squad in the league or whatever, then let's do it. Let's go. What are we waiting for? And I can remember looking at them both, or one of them or both of them or whatever it was, and telling them, no, I don't think I'll make it. I don't think it was an issue of talent. I don't think it was an issue of ability. I think it was an issue of drive. I think that there was a lot of things that led up to me being 19 years old that made me believe that I couldn't do it, whether it was drive or whether it was I didn't believe I was talented enough, whatever it was. Because now looking back on it, I think that if I would have got my shit together and quit effing around, I don't know that I would have made it. But I think I would have at least been able to have an opportunity for an opportunity, if that makes sense. But I didn't. I left. Some other tragedy struck with some friends of mine. I had a friend who decided it was best to hang himself in his closet. We weren't super close. We were becoming close as we had our time there together and hanging out and palling around. There was a whole new group of friends. And that's kind of what solidified me leaving that school. And then I came home and I moved back in to the house and went to community college. And I didn't go to class. The other part about being away at school is I didn't go to class. I didn't go to class there either. There's always something more important. And so it was not going to class. It was not not being able to commit to just bearing down, doing the right thing, getting through school, getting through football, and committing to it, and that was what I was going to do. I wasn't for whatever reason. And so I came home and I started working at car dealerships and detailing cars, which I really loved, by the way. I don't know if he'll ever see this, but I got to detail Brock Lesnar's H2 once in Roseville, Minnesota at Wally McCarthy's Cadillac and Hummer. And he had bought a yellow H2 when they first came out. And he'd bring it in every now and then to get clean. So I had the opportunity to do that. It was pretty cool. He was a really nice guy to me. If I remember right, he brought us a couple pizzas when he picked up his truck. But I was spinning my wheels, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And my mother was asking me, "So what's next? What are you going to do? Are you going to wash cars the rest of your life?" And at that point, my stubborn answer was, yeah, maybe I will. I went to work as a parking enforcement officer for the police department, and that didn't work out. I mean, I did a lot of things, and then I ended up in the basement of a family member's house. And my father took my car from me. He had bought me a car, and the agreement was that I would pay the insurance monthly. And if there's no insurance there, hey, there's no car. All right, well, I can do that. I mean, it was like $86 a month or something like that. Well, I did all right for a while. And at the time, check this out. At the time, I had a job going to appointments at houses selling Kirby vacuum cleaners. And I would go in here, and the deal was, I'll shampoo one room in your house for free, but you got to see my presentation. And so you do this whole presentation of the vacuum, and then, of course, nobody's listening to you. They want you to shampoo a room of their house. And, of course, it's a huge one, and it's ridiculously dirty, and the thing does not made to do, 15 years of dog hair and dog pee. So it doesn't get it immaculate and look brand new. But, hey, man, that's what we had to do. Sold a few of them. I did okay. But I was waiting on my paycheck. I didn't have insurance money. And my father, who is a retired police officer, was working then, of course, said, well, you bring my car up to the station, you get your stuff out of it, and I'll be there to collect the keys from you. I thought to myself, man, there's no way. Like, he's not going to do this, is he really? And so, I collected some of my stuff and packed it up and put it in the back seat, and I went, down the block. I went down the block to watch the street in front of the police station to see if he was serious. And sure as hell, his squad car pulled up there, and he got out and his arms crossed, looking down the street. I think he saw me, but maybe not. Looking down the street, just waiting to see where I was. And I thought, well, I guess I better face the music. So I pulled up there, and I got out, and you try to do one last plea with the old man. And the lesson was this. You made an agreement. You had one job to do to fulfill this agreement. You didn't do it. Yeah, but I got a paycheck coming in 4 days, blah, blah, blah. You know when the insurance is due, and you know when you get paid. If you didn't save the money to give me for the insurance or give it to me when you had it, you didn't plan for it, which means it's not that important to you. You thought I was going to roll over. So, where's the keys? And I remember thinking, Man, you're an asshole, dude. I'm just trying to figure out life. Trying to figure out life and where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do with this life. And now here we are, and I'm standing outside of the police department with a softball bag, because I played a lot of slow pitch softball. A box that has a Kirby vacuum cleaner that I'm responsible for. It was my demo model, but if I lost it, it was like $1,000. I'm on the east side of St. Paul, where if you watched the show on Monday, not far from where the kid pointed a gun at me the other day when I talked about that on Monday. And my dad's taking my car from me. And he's not there to give me a ride. He's got to go back to work. So he gets in this car and he pulls it into the fenced in area where the cops park and their squad cars are and all that. And he came back out and he goes, "You got a ride coming?" "I'm looking for one." He goes, "Why don't you," I think he told me, "why don't you put your stuff just inside the door so you don't look like a target while you're out here? I got to get back to work." "All right, man." And he left. I remember being so mad at him, so pissed, because now here I am stranded. And I ended up getting a hold of a buddy, came and picked me up. "Well, what are you going to do?" I had no idea what I was going to do. I figured it out, of course. But it was a lesson. And look, I'm talking to both my parents now. Dad, if you ever see this, I want you to know I was MFering you all up and down, not just the wall, but all up and down the skyscrapers of the city of St. Paul that night. But I got it. I learned what you had to teach me. See, and so maybe there's the difference between moms and dads, right? And sometimes the only way to learn is to burn yourself, burn your hand. Don't touch that stove, it's hot. Well, maybe the only way to learn for sure that it's hot and you're going to get hurt is you got to touch it, because you're not going to listen. Well, I burned myself, Dad. I heard you. Thank you. And so it wasn't very long after that I was in the basement of this relative's house. And the man of the house, Lon, told me, he's like, "Look, because we can't have you laying around here." I didn't have a car. I didn't have a job. And they lived a little farther north of the city, so if I didn't have a car, I didn't really have a way to get to a job. And the places around them, little mom and pop places, they weren't paying any money, so I didn't think that I wanted to work there anyway, so I didn't know what I was going to do. He was like, "Why don't you take my truck?" I think he had a little Isuzu truck or something. "Why don't you take my truck and go talk to that recruiter?" I was like, I don't know that you got any other choice, son. I don't know. You got a whole lot more choices. I said, "Well, what do you mean?" "There's all kinds of places to work." And if I'm remembering the conversation right, it wasn't about where I was going to go to work. It was about how I was going to figure out life. How I was going to figure out what was important to me and what the hell I was going to do about it. That's what the lesson was. And I thought, man, the whole time growing up, my mom was talking to me about the goddamn Air Force. My dad just fisted me by taking my car. And now you're telling me to go join the military? What the hell is going on here? Like, everyone's against me. Everybody's against me. And so I took the I took the little truck and I drove to the Air Force recruiter. Well, that didn't work out. So then he said, well, I got somebody for you to talk to. Maybe they can help you. And he got me in touch with Sergeant First Class Fanning in the Minnesota Army National Guard. And that dude had me right in. MEPS, no problem. Underwear Olympics, no problem. Do the oath, no problem. ASVAB, I'd already done. That was no problem. And now the journey started. And I was bitter. I was very bitter. And I didn't want to go. I didn't want to join. I didn't want to get up at 4:30. I didn't want to run. I didn't care. To be completely honest with you, I didn't care about shooting guns and throwing hand grenades, and I didn't care about marching through the woods. I didn't care about any of that crap. But I think that Lon was right. I don't know that I had a whole lot of other options, because the other options were going to lead me down the wrong road. And they weren't far away, because the people that were friends of mine that were down that road were in my ear, man. They were on my cellular telephonic device. They were in my ear. Hey, man, we'll come get you, no problem. You know, we're going to do this, and this. But I couldn't, right? Now, once I took that oath, I took it serious. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be there. But I took it serious. When you start something, you finish it. And so here's what my thought was. Okay, so I'm going to go off here to basic training. I'm going to go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, do my basic training. Then I'll make my way down to Fort Bliss in El Paso. I'll learn how to shoot shoulder-fired Stinger missiles at aircraft and take these bastards out of the sky, which at that time there was really no current threat, fixed wing or rotary wing threat. But it was still a job, and they needed people. So I did that. And I'll tell you what, the 9 weeks of basic training, my why for joining the United States Army and the Minnesota Army National Guard completely shifted. Now, mind you, this was very shortly after 9/11, so we were still in the wake of all of that garbage. But it was crazy, man, because once you got there, it wasn't really that bad. Like once you get there and you get through like the shock of it all and the theatrics. I mean, when we got there, they were really good about scaring the crap out of you. But once you got through all the haircut, the guy was rough. I think my skull was bleeding for like a day because he jabbed the clippers into my head when he was shaving my hair. But he just kept going. You know, like they make it a shock to you. But once you get in it, man, and you start that routine after about a week, you start to go, wow, this isn't horrible, man. These dudes are cool. Food's decent. I mean, it was okay. But you're actually learning stuff. You know, you're learning how to read a map. You're learning some survival skills. You're working out, and you can see improvement. And I think part of that is because there's no drinking booze, there's no beer, there's no cigarettes, There's no whooping it up. I mean, you're sleeping by 9:30. And when you're 18, 19, 20 years old and you're in bed by 9:30, you're sick. Usually. Maybe some kids are different nowadays, but then you start to latch onto it, and you start to build this brotherhood with the dudes you're with. And you start to learn who the natural born leaders are, and you start to learn who the weaker guys are, so that we can take care of them, and so that you adopt this one fail, all fail mentality. And it's almost like, and people call it brainwashing. You can call it brainwashing if you want, but it works. But you adopt this ability to just pick up a little bit of slack where the other guys are lacking, and then before you know it, you're moving as a team and you're operating as a team. Not just tactically, but you got to march everywhere. So you're moving to the PX as a team, and you're doing this. I mean, the way that this thing was designed, I don't believe it's the same now. But I don't know. But the way that they designed this back in the early 2000s, it worked for me anyway. And call me a brainwashed dippity-doo if you want. But my why changed. Now I was hungry for it. I really want to do this, and I want to get through this, and I want to be the best I can be. Be all that you can be in the Army, right? So you make it through the reception stage until they get all the guys and you get all your gear, and you go to your basic training company and platoon. And man, it was crazy. That first day was complete chaos. They did this shark attack thing where they put you in cattle cars that are towed by this big pickup trucks. And then they rush onto it. These drill sergeants rush onto it, and they start screaming at you and spitting in your face to get off my bus, get off my car, blah, blah, blah. And they're chest bumping you because they can't really touch you, but there's a lot of people, so I accidentally chest bumped you and this type of thing and this and that. And I'm like, man. And my recruiter told me, here's the one thing my recruiter told me, Sergeant Fanning, someday I'm going to, if I ever see you again, I'm going to tell you that you were a liar about this. He told me, he was like, listen, if you can make it through basic training and you get to this is 9 weeks back then. It was 9 weeks. If you can get to week 7, 8, 9 for sure, and they're looking at you going, what's your name again? Just because you were doing everything you needed to do, you didn't cause any problems, you didn't mess up, you were there at the right time in the right uniform doing the right thing, your boots are polished, your uniform was iron tight with the starch creases that could cut a piece of paper, and that type of thing, you're good, man. Basic training will be easy. And he looked me in the eye and he said, you have the ability to go through that unknown. He goes, I don't see a problem with that for you. Well, let me tell you something, folks. There was only one other guy on that cattle car that was even half my size, half my height, half my width. So when the doors open, I look like this big, now bald orangutan, and they all just zero right in on you. Right? We're going to get the big guy. Because if we can get the big guy to quit or to puke or to fall or whatever, everybody's going to be scared. I think that's their mentality. And so I grabbed my stuff to get off. Well, in the chaos, the drill sergeant's hat fell on the ground. And the one thing you don't ever do is touch a drill sergeant's hat. There's no, under any circumstance, you don't touch it. I stepped on the damn thing. So I'm not even here for 35 seconds. I've already stepped on a drill sergeant's hat, and I got 3 of them spitting in my face. Well, there goes that idea. So for the whole 9 weeks, my name wasn't Private Leonard. My name was just Shrek. The whole time. I was Shrek the whole goddamn time. Anyway, I say all this to just kind of build a context, right? And like, this is the type of experience that I think that people are really missing out on. But I can say in the same breath that with as polarized as our country is and all the things going on, and like, we're teaching our kids that it's okay to hate your dick and cut it off, and you can be a woman if you want. You don't have to comply with the police. I mean, just all this stuff, man, it's just so wild. But this experience changed the whole trajectory of my life. And for me, what it helped me to realize was that it was a lot like football for me. On the football field, we were taught that this is a battlefield. The team across from you in a different colored helmet or a different logo on their helmet is your enemy. And we are going to decimate. We're going to kill them. By any means necessary. We're going to scrape. We're going to claw. We're going to move forward, and we're going to score more points. And then on defense, we're going to hit them so hard that they don't want to come back on the field. We're going to decimate their offense by any means necessary. And, of course, sometimes you say that and you have that mindset and that mentality, and then you get your crap pushed in, right? And you pee all up and down your leg, and just screw the pooch, if you will. But the build up, man, the build up for that was so intense for me anyway, and the guys around me that I played with, it was so intense. And I loved it so much. And then you get to the Army, and we're packing up our gear for, like an FTX to go out and be out for 2 or 3 days. And I never really was a huge camper. I didn't mind it depending on the circumstances, but we had known that this was going to be like like we're going to get ambushed, and we're going to have to move tactically and move tactically to contact, and then break contact, and then counter and all this other stuff, assault through, all this stuff. We were pumped. We were putting all of our stuff together. We were making up raps. We were helping each other pack and making your stuff silent. And you tape down all your extra stuff. Anything that jiggles gets tape on it so that you're quiet as can be. And come 4 a.m., we were ready to roll, baby. I think we made it to like 4:50, maybe 5 o'clock, and then we were all dead. Proverbially, we were dead, simulated. War game. Everyone was dead. What are you going to do now, Private? What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. I'm dead. I don't know. What do you want me to do? More lessons. The idea that the United States military breaks you down to the studs and rebuilds you in its image as a warrior, as a piece of equipment, I would say is 1,000% real. And in the moment, and while you're being rebuilt, and in the moment after, when and if you do make it to combat, man, sometimes it's just an amazing feeling, like unexplainable feeling. It's just the stuff that happens after. The things that happen to soldiers and veterans after their service. That is the real conundrum. That's the real brain buster. They don't teach you anything about that. They do a couple things here and there, but they don't do anything to prepare you for that. But I've gotten off track, man, and I didn't intend on getting this far down the weeds, but I'll say this. Once I got through basic training and I realized how much I liked it, I still only thought, well, I'm going to use this to finish college. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to collect my education benefits from my service. Then I'm out of here. I'll find a job. And now I'll be a veteran. I'll be able to buy a home. Maybe even get a government job. I'll have preference points. In the course of my first enlistment, we deployed to Iraq. And that's where everything changed. The purpose. My why changed immensely. Not after, not during, but right before. My why changed. I remember the very early morning hours pulling up to the armory in northeast Minneapolis where we got on a bus to go to the airport the day we left. And I remember my son, Devin, he was 6 months old at the time. And I remember holding him, and I was scared. I didn't know if I'd ever see him again. We knew where we were going. We'd all just went to infantry school. We all reclassed to infantry, so we knew we were going to be fighting. But I wasn't sure if I'd ever see my son again. He was 6 months old. What do you say to a 6-month-old that he'll remember as an adult? So you can't really say anything. I remember a knock on the window. Hey, man, we got to go. Bus is waiting. I've done a lot of difficult things in my life. That was probably the hardest ever. But you have to. You don't have a choice. You made a commitment. And so we left. We left to destination unknown. I mean, we knew. Our families didn't know. But we left to go do what we had to do. But that's when my why changed. It was then very clear to me that I'm going to wear this uniform as long as I'm able. I'll go fight as many times as it takes. I may not have been the best soldier, the most accomplished soldier, but I'd have went anywhere to fight anybody. This is my home, and I will defend it with my life. I will defend it so my kids don't have to, so your kids don't have to, in hopes that it'll be enough. I don't know, man. Got real heavy there for a second. But what do we do? So I tell you all of this information because I'm hoping that people will see this that have also joined. I'd like to hear why you joined. And you better believe we're questioning Jason about why the hell he joined, because I think that story is pretty interesting if I had to guess. I just wonder where we're going to be when the hammer falls. Doesn't seem like we have a whole lot of good things happening right now that'll make it a smooth transition, if you will. And then the last question is, what do we do to fix it? What do we do to ensure that we don't end up with a military force that is a skeleton crew? What do we do to keep soldiers? Keep them past their first enlistment. And not only just soldiers, but what about the guys who excelled? What about the guys who excelled at the IT jobs? What about the guys that excelled at the construction or the trades within the service? Because I'll tell you what, those guys are super important. If they can't build you a safe structure to operate out of, and you're in the wind, that's dangerous. What do we do if we can't keep good mechanics and good maintenance personnel? What are we going to do? Because I'll tell you what, if it comes down to the government having to recall guys like Jason and I and Ty Bowie and other veterans we know, that opening formation is going to be a whole lot of jaws hitting the floor when the powers that be come out to check out what we got going on. I mean, we'll show up. I have no doubt about it. We will show up. But man, it ain't going to be all very pretty. So just something to think on for this week, guys. I'm sorry I ran a little bit over time. But I really appreciate you being here. The show may have been a little slow, but it's something that I'm really curious about, right? And I think that the only way to pique other people's curiosity is to be able to tell a little bit about my why. And so that's what I did. Got a little heavy there for a second, but we got through it. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for watching. And for Jason and me, I'll say good night. We'll see you next week.